everybody, it's Tara Bryan, and you are listening to the Course Building Secrets podcast. Whether you're a coach or a CEO, the success of your team and clients is based on your ability to deliver a consistent experience and guide them on the fastest path to results. This podcast will give you practical, real-life tips that you can use today to build your online experiences that get results and create raving fans. Why? So you can monetize your expertise and serve more people without adding more time or team to your business. If you're looking to uncover your $1 million framework, package it, and use it to scale, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
I am so excited today to introduce you to my special guest, Robert Peterson from addedvalueforlife.com, right? That's the name of your company. And I'm so excited to welcome him here today to talk about all things course building and coaching and building your business and all of those different things. So welcome, Robert. So happy to have you here on the show. Give us a little, sort of highlight of who you are and your business and what you're about, and we'll go from there.
Oh, thank you, Tara, and just appreciate the opportunity to share and for the invitation. So thank you. And yeah, so I started a coaching company in 2018 and was mostly doing one-on-one coaching. Did and moved into group coaching, but all in person in 2018, 2019. And then of course in 2020 was forced into the internet, which sounds, for some people would say, well, that's obvious. You should have been doing that all along. And yet for somebody, I have a pastoral background. I love seeing people in the room. I love, reading their body language. I love, being able to hug people and greet them and handshake. And so the transition to the internet was harder than it should have been. And taking my platform online, my existing clients actually handled it very well. The bigger piece for me was marketing, because all of my previous marketing had been networking and face-to-face, and that all went away, of course. And so figuring out this digital world and how to build an audience and find people through the internet was all new to me. So over the last year and a half, been working to transition myself to building audiences electronically.
Yeah, and that's a big undertaking. So there's so many different directions I want to take this conversation in. So thank you for giving us a little bit of your background. I think that this is the reality that so many people have faced in the last couple of years, is how do you pivot online? How do you continue to grow your business in a different way when you can't meet with them in person? And so tell me, just on that note, just of it in and of itself, you mentioned connection was one of the things that was the most difficult for you to kind of make that transition. But tell me about when you decided you're not going to just shut down your one-on-one or group coaching in person, right? When everything kind of exploded, that you were going to take it online. What was sort of your mindset around that? How did you reconcile that in terms of okay, I'm going to jump on this, I don't know if you're using Zoom or what you're using, and just getting people together?
Yeah, so through my domain, I'd already been using Google Calendar, and Google is my email provider, my workspace provider, and Google Meet was working really hard to provide a higher level of service. You could put 100 people in a room. It didn't have a 40-minute limitation like the free Zoom version had, and so my meetings were an hour long. So I right away said, okay, Google's already paid for, so I'm going to use Google Meet. It's already linked into my calendar, and so it actually worked. It worked really well, and I emailed all my clients and said, this is where we're going to meet. Let's try this and see what it looks like. And so the teaching elements changed a little bit because I don't have a whiteboard, and I didn't have a whiteboard. You can certainly do electronic whiteboards, but they're not quite not quite the same. I didn't use a lot of PowerPoint or any of those things, so it it took a little bit, but for the most part, my paying clients stuck with it and have appreciated the transition, and got used to it, right? Because everybody was getting used to all of their meetings transition. So my meeting wasn't the only one that happened to. It happened to all of their meetings. And for some of them, they were just happy to have the same group of people that they'd seen every week, still be able to see those same people. And we do a daily check-in, a weekly check-in, where they just share, what's going on in their business, what's going on in their personal life. And those check-ins just help them feel like, oh, there's a little bit of normal, right? And everybody's kind of going through some of the same things. In fact, I just had a meeting today, and one of the dads shared that his son, had an incident and just, got violent and destructive, and everybody else all seemed to have kid stories that that resonated, and everybody's, struggling with different things. And so even though we're a business group, we're the groups kind of, become a family, become a place of confidence, a place of, so there was hope. There was a lot of positive. This was the one thing that everybody just kept doing, when a lot of the other groups just stopped. And so we were the one of their only in-person groups that had gone online and kept meeting.
Awesome. So what's one of the biggest surprises that you've had in switching online? So like the group aspect of it, and getting maybe new people or additional people into your program. Like what's the biggest surprise that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, the first was that it worked so well, like that people adjusted and wanted to meet. Like, every other group quit. All their networking groups quit meeting. Their B&I groups quit, and so because I had rolled right into, we didn't skip a week. Like they closed our office space, March 17th, and then March 25th, we said, all right, we're going to have an online meeting. And so because we didn't skip any meetings, I think there was more buy-in. It wasn't like we had to stop and restart like a lot of groups did. And so that was really good. The people that we added to groups in those first 4 months were all people that we had met previously, so met those people face to face. And now they reached out to us. Hey, what are you doing? Are you still doing, are you still coaching in COVID, and what's happening? I said, yeah, we still have this groups, and there's spots available here and here. And so, the people that we added initially were people that we'd met through networking. And so figuring out, how do we find audience without networking events, without all the model that we had been using. Tried some Facebook ads, and of course you meet the kid that says, hey, I'm a Facebook ad guru, I can get you, well, he added 500 people to my list, but I'm not even convinced that there are 500 people that want what we have to offer. And so none of it translated into calls. And at one point it just feels like you're throwing money in a big black hole. So
yeah, pretty much.
So the digital marketing space is just so challenging, right? And you put a lead magnet out there and start using a lead magnet. And of course I've tweaked and changed, and now I'm getting better and better lead magnets that are getting, more alignment with what we have to offer, so that the people that we're getting to sign up for the lead magnet are already, kind of pre-qualified, or at least good candidates to be clients. And so that's
there's nothing more. Story. Yeah, there's nothing like having to put something online and actually get specific about what you are doing and how you're bringing people in than when you're not in front of them, right? When you're in a networking group, it's a lot easier to explain what you do and how they would benefit. When you have to put that into a sales page, it does become a little bit more challenging to articulate exactly the value and, you know, what you're offering and not having that face-to-face connection with them. So yeah, that's super interesting when you make that transition, you know, how to start thinking about it and looking at it a little bit differently.
Well, and even the networking group, right? You're choosing a networking group based on who's attending the group. And you know, 8 out of 10 people in the group would be a good client versus online. You could talk to 1,000 people. None of them are, you know, the right client, you know, so you just don't have the same kind of group. And some of those networking groups eventually, you know, did go online and a lot of it just wasn't the same. And by then I'd already transitioned from, I don't want to be, you know, just targeting people in the city that I'm working in now. I'm online. I can target people anywhere in the world that speak English. And so that changes even, you know, my commitment to getting back into those groups. It's like, no, I need to do something different to find people in this internet space, put myself out there.
Just those networking groups that are, you know, for a broader audience.
Yeah, well, and there aren't necessarily, you know, groups where people are, you know, doing that traditional BNI networking or the Chamber of Commerce networking in the internet, right? Like there's Facebook groups and there's LinkedIn things, but they're not quite it's not quite the same. You know, you have to put yourself out there and let people see and pull those people to you. And so that's a big, just a big transition, right?
What have you felt is like, just personally, when you went online? One of the things you mentioned is connection to people, and, you know, when you're seeing them in person, you can give them a hug or a handshake or whatever. One of the things we talk about a lot at Learn Academy, which is the program that teaches people how to package and create and sell their online courses, is you can do that without sacrificing customer experience. You can do that without sacrificing the connection that you have and the relationships that you're building with people. So when you shifted online, tell me a little bit about how you personally reconcile that, right? How did you create connection when you were on a computer like this versus being in person with someone, to make sure that you kept that relationship going? Yeah,
so, you know, acknowledging each other is a big piece, right? When everybody comes into the room. But then we added, that's part where we added this personal check-in. And so they rate their week, you know, or where they're at today on a scale of 1 to 10. And so, you know, today I'm a 5 because my kids got off to school, but they had a rough start. My husband didn't get his lunch packed. You know, they're able to just, you know, mention a couple of things that, you know, sets the tone for their attitude. And then they do the same about their business. So, you know, business is at a 7. I got a couple good leads this week and somebody helped me do this. And so you're getting a feel for everybody in the room. The things that you would see on their face or the things that you would ask, you know, over the cup of coffee. Now we're, you know, intentionally asking what's happening. And then everybody shares their win. What was your win this week? And so they've got something that we're trying to celebrate together as a group. And so that's the first 15 minutes of every group meeting. And I think it's helped replace that, you know, the pre-meeting banter, right? And it really does, it helps everybody have an emotional connection, not just you know, hey, we're here to learn and here to do business. No, it's, you know, here we're a group of people, and we I do all of my coaching live, and so, you know, there's no pre-recorded course materials or for that model, right? And that's the majority of my business is those group sessions. And so that connection at the beginning, I think, can really, you know, set the tone for the group to really care about each other. And I think that, yeah, that's made up for, you know, what in my mind was a big deal, and really everybody had made the same leap. And sure, we still want to go out and grab a beer or a burger or, you know, meet together. But the truth is the meetings are working, and people, you know, over 18 months now. I've stuck it out. And so it's obviously meeting that need.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's so important, right? Is how do you take sort of what you're doing offline and find those ways to make those connections, find that way to gather people together online. It doesn't have to be that different, right? Like, yes, you may not, be able to, physically be in the same room as them, but you certainly can still get to know them and provide that value and build that relationship, even when you're online, even if it's automated. Like, you're doing it all live right now, but even when it's automated, you also can create that connection and that relationship with people, and kind of making that shift starts to give you that idea of, wait a minute, if I want to connect with someone this way, how do I do that? Like, and really being intentional about that. So I love that you're doing that. That's awesome. So I want to take us just on a little bit of a tangent for just a second, and I want to talk about how you transitioned from kind of what you were doing in ministry and all of that to coaching, because I think one of the things that a lot of times people struggle with is, like, either this is my profession and how do I change it to do something different, or I have an expertise, how do I package it in a way that then is different than maybe doing what I've been doing in my day job. So can you walk us through a little bit of that transition?
Yeah. So I spent 20 years in the church. 10 of those years were as a missionary in South America, and then 10 years as an outreach pastor for a large Christian church. And our leadership at the church was transitioning, and the new leader basically had said, you don't connect very well with the audience, and so we probably won't have you preaching as often as you were. And so I was, 6 to 8 times a year was all, and so it wasn't a lot, but it was something that I definitely enjoyed, and so right after that, this ad, I think even on Facebook, which at the time I wasn't even on Facebook, for John Maxwell, was offering this training for speaker trainers, coaches. And so it's actually a God thing, or universe thing. And so I made an appointment. You make an appointment, they call you back and explain the whole program. It's like $6,000 for this 3-day weekend. And I literally, when the lady said it, I laughed. I'm like, that's not even, that's not even in the possibilities. Like, that's more money than I spent on my car. And then I hung up the phone and I texted a friend. I didn't even call him. I texted him and I said, hey, I've got a chance to do this program that I think will make me a better speaker and will give me the tools to make me a better preacher. And he's like, yeah, dude, I got it. I'll cover it. And so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so 3 days later, not only was I going, but my wife was going with me. And my wife and I went and got trained as speaker trainer coaches through John Maxwell's training program. And so that was in February. And by May, it was pretty clear my job was going away. And so it went from be a better speaker at the church to maybe I can use this coaching and become a coaching, leadership consultant, become a consultant of some sort. Just wasn't sure. But then when my wife and I sat down and reflected on it, the 10 years I was in South America, I was coaching pastors. So these pastors, Colombian pastors, were really passionate about preaching and teaching, but they had no idea how to treat the church and run the church like a business. And so a big part of my role was helping them set up all the business systems and processes for the church. So the church was more legitimate and would have, a better opportunity to last longer because it had these systems in place, for handling their finances and for how they treated and tracked people and all the things that happen behind the scenes in a church. And so I recognized that those 10 years were coaching. And then even in my role as an outreach pastor, one of the things that I took very seriously was our relationship with the 12 different missionaries we supported around the world. I went and visited all of them and was building to change that from a transactional relationship where they received a check from the church to a real relationship where they felt like they had a connection to the church. Only so that if something bad happens, a missionary that's transactional can't tell you that something bad is happening because you'll take away the money. Versus, if you have a relationship and you can say, hey, this is happening, I know you won't take away the money because I know you want to help us through it. And that's really what, and really those were coaching relationships as well. And so recognizing I've been coaching, I've been counseling couples, I've been, premarital counseling, I've been doing mediation counseling and helping people with conflict and all of those things, and recognizing this isn't something new. This is something I've actually been doing all along. Now we're going to do it for a different audience. And so just really felt like it took a little bit. In the beginning, I thought, I'll go in and do corporate training and do these leadership things and get into all these big companies. And of course, that's really hard to get into. But my heart was really for entrepreneurs and really for the folks that are bootstrapping in their businesses. And so that's really, networking really brought that out and allowed me to build an audience of entrepreneurs, sales professionals that are working on their own, but now they can have this group that is going with them, and they're not alone. They're all going in the same direction, and they all want, the same things. Essentially, they want to make more money. They want to be more successful. And as a group, we can help them, be accountable and have other people, that care for them and know what they're doing and have their back, right? Unlike their family or friends, which they trusted and want to tell. And as soon as they say, well, I'm going to go start my own business, and they're all going to say, you're nuts. Don't do that.
Don't do it. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I love that. So I love your sort of transition for a couple different reasons. One is very rarely is it a direct path from here to here, right? Like when you decide to pivot or shift or even just kind of claim your superpower, it's not necessarily always that like very direct way of doing that. So I love hearing that story and how you sort of uncovered your superpowers, even to hear that maybe one thing that you thought was your superpower wasn't, but there were all these other clues of things that you were doing and you were doing really well and you wanted to continue doing that sort of brought you to that point of now being able to step fully into that coaching role and helping people in that way versus even, kind of the speaking aspect of it, because there's so many different, every expertise, every industry has lots of different ways that you can show up and help people. So I love hearing that you found that thing and then were able to take it and really do awesome things with it.
Well, and even the coaching model, right? Choosing, a one-on-one coaching model to do the things I want to do, I need to charge, $400, $500 an hour, which is doable, but even there it's limited. And then the audience I've chosen, entrepreneurs typically can't afford, for when they need the help, can't afford $400 or $500 an hour. And so that's kind of what led into the group model. And it really became like a biblical, like a discipleship group. You're helping people grow. And so it's very similar to the kind of groups that we would set up in church to help people grow. Our focus is now business and growing business, but the idea of working in a group, and of course the power of the mastermind, the whole group elevates everybody else. So that really grew out of, the combination of recognizing, A, I can make this more affordable for people by putting 10 people in the room at the same time. And B, they actually help each other more than I can help them, because now we have 10 brains, 10 brains at the table, that can help somebody deal with their stuff in such a better, there's so much more value in that environment, especially
Right.
for growing business. It's not like marriage can
Mhm.
need privacy.
Right, exactly. Well, and the fact that it saves you time, right? So you're not doing all one-on-one. You're able to do the group where you're able to scale your time and your efforts to be able to help more people. But absolutely, getting people together is what makes the biggest difference. I also love about your story the fact that you reached out to somebody to get help. You knew you needed additional training. You knew that you needed a different system. So not only did you reach out to get that help, but I also love the fact that somehow you got an investor to invest in your development and pay for that to happen. So I love that part of your story. And I think for anyone who's listening, there are options, right? And there are different ways to get to finance different your personal development than just having to pay out of pocket. So I love that part of your story. That's a little surprise I didn't know about, but that's super cool that you were able to do that. Because I think sometimes people would say, "What's too expensive? I'm not going to do it." Instead of, "How can I make this happen?" The fact that you got that level of investment to help with your personal development, which I think is phenomenal. The next question I have for you is, if somebody's listening and they're in that place where they know that what they're doing isn't necessarily exactly maybe following their superpower, or something, isn't something exactly what they should be doing, what's your advice for them? Your number one tip for them in terms of how they can take what they're doing to the next level?
Yeah, I think you have to try it, right? You have to try things. You have to do something. And so you got to pick a direction and hope it's your passion and try it. And I think you'll find it in the doing, right? You'll start, because that's what happened. For me, I did a few company things. I did some trainings, but then really started attracting entrepreneurs more so than these company gigs. And it just starts to feel right. But I think sitting back and trying to figure it out, right? Write it down on paper and think you're going to come up with the right thing without taking action is just not going to happen. And so I think you have to just try something. Try it. If it doesn't work, change it, right? And that's really the entrepreneurial journey. It's really as simple as that. Try it, okay, change it and make it better. That's how it's got to work in marketing. How it's got to work in your creating a program. Even finding your ideal audience. There are a few people that just know their niche, right? And they just naturally gravitate to it. But even then, you've got to try stuff and tweak it, change it, get better. And I think then your passion and purpose can align. But I think they only can align in action.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to actually jump in and do it. And the other part about that is expect that you're going to have to make some changes, right? Maybe not having it work is almost as important as when it does work.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's not failing, it's learning, and you can only do it through action. I love that. That's awesome advice. Okay, so give us one resource or tool or book or something that you love that's really impacted your ability to step into your superpower as a coach and consultant.
Well, since you mentioned superpower, my mom, in the midst of all this, at the same time as building my business, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and placed into memory care. And so studying the mind and being intentional about my mind and my client's mind. So I'm very holistic in dealing with, their body, mind, and spirit are all important in their entrepreneurial journey. And so Jim Quick has a book called Limitless. And Jim, as a young boy, fell and hit his head on a radiator and had brain damage, and so grew up as the broken brain kid, But in his college years was introduced to a mentor who encouraged him to read Think and Grow Rich and Wallace D. Wattles and all of these personal development books. And Jim created the book Limitless, really about applying your mind. And so he's got a section on mindset, and then a section on mastery, and really a section on how to do it, right? Improve your memory, improve your retention, improve your networking and your ability to remember names. So the tools are all in there too. So he's got great stories, great reasons why, and then really the tools to master that. And I think conquering your mind and having your mindset right can be so powerful as a foundation for building anything.
So that's an awesome book. I think that I have it in my library. I have like hundreds and hundreds of books in my library, but I'm definitely going to go check that one out. But I think mindset is so critical, because if your mind isn't in the right place, the rest is not going to follow, right? Like being able to just, get that set. What would you say is like a key mindset, I don't know, attitude or behavior that you have that's helped you through this journey?
I guess my willing to question the voice in my head. And so when the voice in my head says no, or that won't work, or you can't do that, I'm always willing to say, well, why not? What do you mean? Like, isn't that interesting? Right. And so having that conversation with the voice in my head, I think the biggest thing was, and it's a different author that basically wrote about the voice in your head is not you. And so you don't have to take the voice in your head as serious as you take yourself. Right. And so just being willing to question that voice and challenge it. Right. And so I like planting seeds in the evening for my subconscious to wrestle with while I sleep. And so sometimes those can be, well, why did you say that? Right. Or, why do you think that? Is that really true? And so even challenges in my business, like, how will I get the next 10 clients is a question I'll ask at night before I go to bed, and let that be the thing that, I sleep on.
I love that. You know what? I think I do that all the time, but I never really thought about that was an intentional practice, right? Like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna like, and I do this a lot when I'm about to go speak. So if I'm speaking the next day, I will run through the entire thing in my head right before I go to bed. And then like I dream about it all night in terms of, like processing through that. But that's so fascinating, because I don't know if I've ever really put language to that before, that I'm actually like asking my subconscious to go through and solve a particular problem while I'm sleeping. Nice. I love that. That's super cool.
So I talk about morning routines all the time, but I tell people your morning routine starts with your evening routine. And everybody's like, evening routine? And so, there's just 2 or 3 things you can do at night to set yourself up for a successful morning. Turning off your devices an hour before you go to bed, walking through those questions, setting the 5 things, 3 to 5 things that you want to do tomorrow, setting those intention, right? Write those down. And then asking your brain those questions that you want it to work on while you're sleeping. And then those are the last things that your brain is processed. And it's got, 7 or 8 hours to work on those things and focus on those things instead of just, whatever was the last sitcom you watched.
Well, and that's interesting, because I tend to, like if I'm thinking about something that happened during the day and like processing through that, like it's much more productive for me to think about like what are the things I need to process for the next day in terms of what I want to do versus like rehashing maybe something that happened during the day. So I love that. That's awesome. Very cool tip. All right, cool. So for everyone who is looking to find you, how can they find you? Obviously, we put things in the show notes, but give us a little shout out in terms of what my audience can do to find you.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Add Value to Entrepreneurs, and a lot of great episodes. We interview entrepreneurs or people that can support or help entrepreneurs with tools or tips or things. And so a lot of great stories that we try to put out there. And so you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. It's also available in video on my website and YouTube. So add value, 2 entrepreneurs.com. And then my website, addvaluetolife.com. And, essentially it became my personal goal I want to be a person that adds value to others in every situation. And so whether it's the grocery store clerk that's checking me out, the waitress that's, serving us dinner, or just somebody, even I'm walking by when I walk my dogs, I want to smile. I want to leave them better than I found them. And so in business, I want to help, entrepreneurs reach that next level and continue to just add value and give all I can to help them get to that next level.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much, Robert, for being on the show. Appreciate you being here, and check out his information down in the show notes.
Thanks for the invitation. Sure appreciate it, Tara.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. The best thing you can do is to take action on an idea or tip that resonated with you. To help you take action, I have a free gift for you that you can download in the show notes. During each episode, we publish an action plan worksheet and other helpful takeaways from our speakers in the Course Building Secrets Creators Lab. To register for free, click on the link in the show notes. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, are you a business owner ready to streamline and scale your business? Imagine solving the biggest business challenges with clarity, a strategy, and a clear plan. Hey, I'm Tara Bryan, and I want to invite you to take the first step towards transforming your business with a free 30-minute discovery call. This call is an opportunity to discuss your goals, identify key challenges, and learn how my mentorship program can help you achieve the success you're aiming for. In just a half hour, we'll explore how you can scale your business by enhancing your authority strategy, engagement strategy, and retention strategy. You'll get personalized advice and a clear path forward. Ready to take the first step? Click on the link below that's in the show notes to book your free discovery call now. I hope to talk to you soon.